Dun 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 dun. That's really cool looking. There's some dead man's fingers on this Agar cup here, and they have decided to fruit right in the center where I put the tissue sample onto the agar that is contained in this cup. And they are really, really cool looking. Look at those guys. I didn't expect them to actually fruit on this cup, but you know, I think that the fact that they did put off these really neat looking fruit bodies in here is actually a really good indication that these condiment cups, whenever you use them as, petri dishes or agar plates, I do think that they do have a slight benefit over petri dishes just because, obviously, look at all the air gap that's above the agar layer right there. There's probably about, 2.5 centimeters or so, almost an inch of an air gap. And not only does that give whatever is growing in here room to fruit out and, upwards, but it just traps more air, so it makes more oxygen available for the, more free and fresh oxygen available for the mushroom colony on the agar. So it actually might, these condiment cups might actually have a rather helpful purpose other than just, growing mushroom mycelium on agar. These actually may be superior to regular petri dishes if you want to try and let the mushroom colony on that agar try and fruit out like it did here. This is not the first time that this has happened. Like you saw in that one video where I had that wild oyster mushroom culture on there, and it did the same thing. It fruited out from the center where the initial tissue culture sample was placed, was taken and placed onto the agar on here. So that will be the most mature part of the mushroom culture. So I guess it does make sense that it would try to fruit from that area just because that's been the most well-established area of the mushroom colony. Just the fact that there is so much free space and so much like three-dimensional space for this to grow probably does help the mushroom colony on the agar be like, oh, okay, yeah, we can start fruiting whenever we want. And you can see that the one there in the middle is not the only part. Here, let me get my classic pointing pick that I like to use in my videos. It has hot glue on it. Hold on. The ones in the center are not the only ones that are trying to fruit, that are fruiting. There's a little mushroom, there's a dead man's finger or Xylaria polymorpha pin right there. There's a pin right here on the back, right there. There's actually a lot of mushroom pins on this agar that's trying to put off some fruits. So that's actually pretty cool. I'm actually really impressed. And you can see, oh, that's a good angle. Look at that. You can see why it's called dead man's finger. It really does just look like a zombie hand poking up. Like if this is growing on the ground, it would look exactly like a zombie hand poking up through the soil. It's really, really cool looking. I think I'm starting to get a nice pattern down and a nice process down where if I want to try and let whatever is growing on the agar, like if I want to try and let a mushroom culture grow out to the point on agar where it tries to put off it tries to put off fruits, I think that I am going to put them in these condiment cups that have nutrient agar in them, just because they do seem to more easily put off mushroom fruits than they do on petri dishes. And like I said, it's a lot more beneficial to have all of this extra space three-dimensionally for the mushroom for the culture to put out fruits and let them grow upwards without them getting squished by against the lid of the petri dish on a regular one. So yeah, this is actually a really good little observation that will help me in my future endeavors whenever I keep my hand shaking. This will help me in my future endeavors where I try to grow more mushroom samples out. Yeah. Now these Xylaria polymorpha here, they're not really used for anything. They're not like a medicinal mushroom or anything like that. They're not an edible mushroom. They're not considered to be an edible or medicinal mushroom. But they are really, really cool looking. Like, I just really like the way these things look. And just the fact that these are growing on agar like that is so neat to me. If you hear like any like squeaking or anything, that's just my little magnetic stirrer right here. It's my battery powered magnetic stirrer. I just want to see how long the battery will last in here, since I just haven't used it for a while, and I actually just got done fixing it. So I want to see if I need to replace the lithium battery that's contained in there, just because it hadn't been used for so long. But so far, it's been running for like an hour at 20%, and it seems to be holding up just fine. And once it dies, then that'll give me a good idea of how long it has to run. But yeah, in case you were wondering if you heard any like squeaking or like, that's what that is. But anyway, back to this. So yeah, between the dead man's finger, the wild oyster mushroom sample, and the culture that I had on that one petri dish, I do think that from now on, whenever I do culture samples like this and grow things out on agar, if I want to try and fruit those out on agar, I am going to put them in. I'm going to use the petri dishes for like initial, like I'll use regular petri dishes for normal procedures, like trying to get like a monoculture, or trying to do like a mushroom clone, or like clone the tissue of a wild mushroom or whatever. And then once I get a good sample on a petri dish, I'll then take that, I'll put that on another petri dish, let that petri dish incubate and let that fully colonize. Then I can add that to my culture collection. That way I have some of the culture on hand that I want to do whatever with. And then I will then take some from that first colonized petri dish, and then I will place some in a couple of these agar cups. I guess I'll call them agar cups, because that just sounds a lot better than constantly trying to correct myself as to what these are. So from now on, these are agar cups. There we go. Or Petri cups. Petri cups? No. Petri cups sounds stupid. Agar cups. That's what we're going to go with. But yeah, I'll put some culture samples on these agar cups, and then I'll let those also, incubate and completely colonize. And then I will take the culture cups, take them out of the incubator once they've gotten to the point of growth that I think they should be, and then I'll put those out just on my workbench out here in the light. I always have the lights on out in my shop just because I like it to be brightly lit out here, and all of my lights are LED, so it doesn't really use that much electricity to keep them on. And one of the things that mushrooms look for in order to put off fruits like these, usually, not always, but usually, is they will use light as an indication to start putting off fruits. So that's why I will just take them out of the incubator once they've completely colonized, and then I'll put them on my workbench just for them to say, hey, you can start growing mushrooms now, anytime. So yeah, that's really cool. All right. Yeah, this is I think I'm starting to get a little bit of a technique down here with these things. Cool. All right. Bye-bye.